on at another time and remind you of that. So basically, it's better to call in. You can also access the show by going to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage and click on the Listen Live button. Listen Live, and you can just hear the program right there. You can also see and hear the program if you go to the YouTube channel, type in the word Talktainment, and then hit the space bar, and then type in the word radio, or scroll down to radio, and then you want to hit that, and then a screen will come up, or a window will come up where you type in Talktainment number 2, and then you can see and hear the program that way. And the last way you can do that is by going to facebook.com/Talktainment, and you're all set. So those are the ways that you can get in contact with the show to ask Mr. Fuller your questions, or maybe make a statement. If you do, be concise with it so that he can get the information and answer your question appropriately. Okay, don't forget that we are still taking donations. The donations go to the second hour only, the second hour. And so we do need your donations. You'll hear a special announcement, I think at the half-hour point in the program. You'll hear that in both hours. You'll hear that. Let's see, what else am I supposed to do? Okay, I think that is it, so we can get started with the show. Okay, let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Mr. Fuller, as usual, let's say good morning to you.
Good morning.
And how are you this day, Mr. Fuller?
I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Okay. Today's program I have entitled Training Day. Training Day. Training, what do you mean by that, Mr. Bobby? Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to read an excerpt by Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, and it goes like this. She says, we're the only people on this entire planet who have been taught to give and praise our demeanment. I'm a bitch. I'm a hoe. I'm a gangster. I'm a thug. I'm a dog. If you can train your people to demean and degrade themselves, you can oppress them forever. You can even program them to kill themselves, and they won't even understand what happened. Those are the words of Dr. Welsing. If you have YouTube, you can see a picture of her on the screen. She said that we are trained to do these things, trained to demean ourselves and call ourselves all these names. And as Mr. Fuller has pointed out, using the people activity, it is in all those areas of people activity that they do these things to us. So Mr. Fuller and I are going to open up a discussion on how we are trained to do what they want us to do. This is a business. White supremacy is a business, and they don't want you to mess up that revenue stream. It's a gangster business. Mr. Fuller talked about that last week. Mr. Fuller, even though Dr. Welsing, has said this, and she's not here, and I cannot ask her any questions, what is your VGQ on the thought that we are trained and taught?
Well, one of the first things you do if you have an agenda, and the white supremacists, when they instituted a system called white supremacy, which is racism, and they say, well, what is this white supremacy supposed to be about? Well, what we're going to do, we are going to dominate. We're going to come up with a system of dominating and mistreating. That's the intent. People of color for our glory and our material comfort. And in order to have what everybody wants out of this thing called life or existence, fun, glory, and material comfort. Now, how are we going to get that? In an orchestrated manner, in an orderly manner. by setting up a system based on, if you're classified as white, you are ordained, or you're given a license to dominate and mistreat people who are classified, who we classify as non-white. And so they say, well, now, how are we going to go about doing it? Because once you set up an idea, you got to have a plan to execute the idea. So they said, well, we'll just take all of the 9 areas of activity, and this is something I came up with that they must have done because they have done it. Say, well, let's look at all of the things that people do. People engage in some type of economic system, which means how do they use their time and energy? All right? So let's look at that. How do people use their time and energy? That's basically what economics is, the use of time and energy. So they say we will take control of the way that these dark-skinned people use their time and use their energy. We'll take control of that. Because if we're going to dominate them, that's what you have to do. Okay, so that takes care of the first area of activity. They say, well, what are the other areas? So I say that they, if you just want to give a label to them, they're all interactive. One area of activity interacts with another area of activity. So these are just labels that I came up with. That is called the 9 areas. But it's what basically is what people do. So they said, okay, taking them in alphabetical order. Education. People learn things. What is education? Learning about things. That's what education is. Learn about the things you think you need to know. That's what education is. Learning about the things that you think you need to know in order to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish that will bring about what? Fun, glory, and material comfort. Because that's what all creatures want. All people want those 3 things. Animals want them, squirrels want them, elephants, bears, fish, birds. They want what? Fun. You see birds having fun, squirrels chasing each other and having fun and whatnot. And they like glory. They like to be admired and whatnot. That's what glory is and whatnot among themselves. And they like material comfort, food, shelter. When it starts snowing, squirrels have to have some place to go. So they go up in the trees and make a nest and whatnot because they know the winter is coming. So, getting back to the second E, education, they say we'll take control of black people's education. We will teach them what education is, what they should know, the things they should learn that will help them to serve us and what we want, okay? And entertainment, we'll do the same thing. We'll make their entertainment something that serves us, but it won't serve them in a constructive way. So we'll make sure that their entertainment is something that's going to always break them down, not build them up. The songs that they sing and all like that, that's something that's going to tear them apart. All right? That's something that's going to make them stupid. So black entertainment is supposed to be about being stupid, okay? Thinking about doing things stupid, planning on being stupid, and doing stupid things, and reckless things, and dangerous things, that are dangerous to you, but not dangerous to anybody else who's oppressing you, all right? We don't want you to sing any songs, that has anything to do with some type of counter-racist patriotism. No, stay away from that. But, just give them a lot of garbage, all right? Take control of that. Steer it. Pay for it. Give them any salaries that they want, as long as they're spreading that. All right? That'll keep them busy. Okay? And then the next is what? Labor. Law. Politics, which is nothing but interaction between people. How do people talk to each other every day? How do they greet each other? What are the what type of words that they use all day long, most never anything that's inspiring, never anything that's going to help them to think in a constructive or an uplifting manner. Just garbage, 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 pure garbage, all the time. I mean, just drown them in garbage. Have a head full of garbage in their politics. Politics is nothing but one person relating to another. That's what politics is. It's not just going to the polls and voting and all like that, even though it includes that, but that's just a small part of politics. That's the beginning part, you might say, of organizing how people are going to interact with each other. But the everyday ingredients is just how people talk to each other. How people talk to each other in the morning when they see each other. What do they say? Do they say anything inspiring? Do they say anything that's going to make you think at a different level, at a constructive level? Or is it just going to be some type of name calling and and just high-fiving and what's up? I mean, and that's what all of that politics is going to consist of. Is anything in there that's going to help you to generate thoughts that are going to be progressive and have your mind really working in a constructive manner? All right? And then get control of the next thing, religion. Any religion that these dark-skinned people have, make sure that that religion is not a danger to the system of white supremacy. Every now and then you'll get somebody who uses his religion like a Martin Luther King and whatnot, to do something that's going to be detrimental to the system of white supremacy. Watch for that. Whether that person, he or she, is a Christian, calls himself a Christian, or Muslim, or Buddhist, or a Jew, or a Confucianist, or any of the major religions, or any of the tribal religions, which there are many, many dozens and hundreds maybe. All right? Look at those religions and see if those religions have anything in them that might be a danger to us practicing the crime of white supremacy. Make sure that these dark-skinned people don't have anything in their religion that's a danger to us in our business of suppressing them. Okay? And then sex, of course, get control of that. Always directed in a way that's going to be of service to the system of white supremacy. Confuse them sexually, so they don't even know what sex is. They don't even recognize it. Have it all over the place. They call anything sex and have them doing it. And just put the sexual label on it and call it sex. And that they should be doing it. This will improve you silly people. Just do what I say. Don't think about it. Just do it. All right? You love sex, so we're going to see all that. We're going to control all of that. You think you're in control of it, but we're controlling all that because we control everything that you do. Okay? And then, of course, war. That's out of the question because we have already so far won the war. Now, this is the white supremacists talking. We have already put you in captivity. We're just making sure we keep you that way. So that's it.
All righty. TalkTainmentRadio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and, of course, politics. Now, here's one that I'd like to share with you, one that you've been responding to, and that's good, but we're going to bring it up again, and that is Libby. Libby just speaks to the whole world of holistic living, holistic thought, holistic being. You should, if you haven't, tune into her and see what's up. Yeah, with Libby. This is Libby. It is an exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com, and all you have to do is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage and click on programs and then scroll down to This is Libby, and there you go. Find out the day and time that she's on so that you can get into holistic living. This is a part of what we do at Talktainment Radio, and this is the way that radio should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neil E. Fuller Jr. Our theme today is Training Day, and Mr. Fuller just went over in the 9 areas of people activity how we are being trained in each one of those areas. Now, before we go on, Mr. Fuller, we've been compiling a list of movies, which I don't have in front of me right at this particular moment, unprepared. That's not good. But we listed 6 that we had, and I had the paper, but I don't have it with me now, or is it in my books? But anyway, and I will get that. But anyway, there was a question by a couple of people who Gmailed me. Oh, okay, yeah, who Gmailed me. And I'll tell you what, let's go to the phone call. Caller, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead.
Hello, greetings.
Yeah.
How you doing today?
Fine. Now make sure you turn down your radio so that you can hear us, because that feedback messes it up. It makes it very difficult for us to go. So turn your radio down and go ahead and ask your question. Go ahead, caller.
Sorry, but this is actually not my radio. I was just making this call. I'm calling from California,
Okay.
and it's about 3 or 4 hours behind.
Yeah, 3 hours.
Your time.
Yes.
And I'm actually at the current rescue mission out here in Bakersfield. I'm walking out the door right now to get clear of the radio.
Okay, go ahead.
My question is in regards to, and it's also a comment and information sharing. It's in regards to war, politics, and religion, as it is directed in real time as what's going on in America. And to break it down, to make it very as simple as possible, counter warfare, to counter the warfare that's being used tied to religion, which Neil Fuller Jr. believes to be the main or the most used religion and the most effective religion right now is racism, white supremacy. I would go on to say that it's actually Satanism. The cult of Saturn pre-existed before there was such a concept as white supremacy. There was a concept such as sacrificial deaths and killings and things of that nature, which also was incorporated into warfare and politics. So please correct me if I'm wrong about this. If you don't know what the cult of Saturn is, it's connected to the so-called Babylon, Western Asian area, which some people may call the Middle East, the so-called Middle East, which I refer to as Western Asia. Places as in Persia, which is now like Iran, Iraq, Baghdad, and different areas like that. But the information sharing that I was going to say is that I'm actually an innocent targeted individual who is actually being subjected to 4th generation warfare, which is forms of covert and overt warfare, and it involves a wide community of people within America.
Okay. Let me break in for a minute and ask Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, do you understand what this caller is saying?
Not really, but whatever he's saying, I guess the people who are listening, they can, they can understand what he is saying. He's not asking me a question, I guess. So he's just making statements about his evaluation of what's going on in the world. So for the listeners and the BGQ, they just take that into consideration and do what they can with it.
Okay. Caller, is there a question that you would like to ask Mr. Fuller?
Yes, to try to simplify it a little better, this is a question about, because it's connected to politics, religion, and war.
Okay.
And I'm talking about, and the question is, it has to do with counter warfare. When a person knows that an entire country, well, not an entire country, but a large number of people are at war with them in real time, and they know that the government is involved as far as the military, different operations such as CIA, NSA, the entire, and everything that falls into DHS could be coordinating with them. How does a person, what would you recommend for a person to do to counteract that? Because what I'm talking about is counteracting not only psychological warfare, but counteracting all types of warfare, including constant surveillance, illegal surveillance, constant illegal experimentation, which also involves physical contact.
Okay.
Okay, if I understand the question, what do you do about the situation? That's the question, I guess. What you do is codify as an individual everything that you do in every area of activity that you think will counteract what the white supremacists are doing and be effective in doing so in each area of activity, in everything that you do as an individual person, and talk to other people about doing those things that you try and you find out that they work. You try to get other people to do those same things. That's called a counter-racist code. We don't have one. We need to build one. And the way you build one is just by every day you come up with the most constructive thing to do in every situation. That's the key. Keep it real simple. Everything is divided into constructive, non-constructive. You don't have to put labels on it and all like that. I mean, it helps to do so, but not necessarily do you have to have labels. You just do. You do the things that will have the most constructive result. And stay away from anything that is non-constructive. And you are automatically doing great damage to the system of white supremacy. That's all a non-white person, a black person, has to really center on. Keep it simple. You don't have to get into this thing about the CIA is doing this and what's going on in Iran and all that. No. All over the planet, each and every non-white person, wherever he or she is, codify what you do and say. Say only the things that are going to have a constructive effect. And do only those things as best you can that the white supremacists will allow you to do, because they definitely don't allow you to do very much that's going to be of constructive value. But every chance you get, try to do the most constructive thing that you can possibly do in every situation that you're in. You're in a situation all day long as an individual person. You're in some type of situation. You're riding a bus, you're going somewhere. Now, do you sit on that bus and you say something to somebody that's constructive? Or are you going to say something non-constructive? If you're on your cell phone, are you saying something that's constructive or non-constructive? If you suddenly realize you're saying something that's non-constructive, get off the phone. That's it. It's real simple. It's not complicated at all. And each time you do that, you are doing great damage to the system of racism, and you are doing all kinds of support to the type of world that black people are supposed to be producing, because this one that we are in is unsuitable for anybody.
All righty. There you have it. Let's go to the phone lines quickly. Go ahead, caller. You're on with Mr. Fuller.
Hey, good morning, guys. Mr. Fuller, two questions. Quick first question. I know that you've referenced Malcolm X often, and I just want to know, because he was in Washington during the time that you were in Washington at the same time. I wanted to know if you had ever seen him or heard any of his speeches live. Have you ever met him in your lifetime?
I've sat next to him a few feet away from him in a restaurant once, and I've heard him speak, I think, at least twice during his lifetime. And that's it. I never said anything to him. Even when he was sitting at a table near me, if I recall correctly. And I've met a lot of people like that. I've been around a lot of black people who were very active in what person who has passed on, Dr. Dick Gregory. I've been in his hotel lobbies where he was standing just a few feet away from me. I never said a word to him. And because if I can't think of something constructive to say, that's a part of the code. If you can't think of something constructive to say to anybody, say absolutely nothing. I didn't have anything constructive to say. And I didn't, that would improve on whatever it is he was already doing, trying to check in or check out of a hotel. And if I couldn't contribute to anything that would be helpful, rather than to just get in his way and say, hey, I know you, I recognize who you are, and I just want to tell you about what I think and all like that, I didn't think that would be an improvement. So if you don't think something is going to be an improvement, don't do it. Black people should be all about making every situation, not some situations, every situation, an improvement over what is already being done. I mean, that's a part of the code. So we need to get serious, because we're really not. Mm-hmm. We're nowhere near being serious.
Okay. What was your second question?
And the second question, I know you've referenced also in the past that you wanted to get your book out in other languages, particularly Spanish, because many non-white people of the world are Spanish-speaking. I just have the question, what do you think is the best way that blacks and browns, or the black people and Latin people of the world, can connect? Because there just seems to be such a dysfunction between the two, mainly because the Latin people of this world are some of the most confused people in the entire world, and reason being because they're every color of shade of black, and they're just very confused people. What is the best way that black and Latin people can come together, being that we have a cultural and language barrier separating us? And yeah, that's really my question. How can we
in any language, in any so-called culture, the first order of business is to understand the system of white supremacy, what it is and how it works. That's the first order of business.
Okay,
because you cannot solve a problem without understanding what the problem is.
Excuse me, Mr. Fuller, I'm going to have to go to break. I'm reading a Gmail. This lady, and this is just a couple of people all mixed up in one, she said, I already know that it is a BBC documentary. I need much more information, Mr. Fuller, than that. I emailed and contacted BBC. They have no information on this documentary. Mr. Fuller, would you please give me detailed information such as when it was published, contact number of where it could be purchased, or where it could be rented. Thank you very much. A lot of people wrote in about the history of white supremacy. Now, I heard you say that you saw it as a BBC documentary. Would you care to elaborate more on that, please?
Somebody contacted me about that, and I found out that the actual title is The History of Racism. That's BBC TV.
Okay.
But I was calling it The History of White Supremacy.
Okay.
So that may make a difference right there. I did see that presentation myself. Somebody filmed it. Rather, they showed it to me on film. I actually saw it on someone's console, because they punched a few buttons and it came up, and I was looking at it, but that was some time ago. So I'll have to do more research, because I can't be putting out information over there that's not accurate and people can't find it. So I'm going to have to go and try to trace that down, what I saw, and get more information, just like the person said. I'm going to have to do that, or anybody else who is computer savvy, which I am not, can probably do it. But that's how they got it.
Okay.
And but it's the history of racism.
Okay, history
so
of
that may make a difference. I don't, if people didn't know anything about it at all at BBC, then I need to go back and really figure that out, because because I saw about an hour-long program. Very well done, very finely crafted, and very accurate, in my estimation.
Okay.
That's why I put it on the list.
All righty.
But if it's not available and whatnot, I want to know that too.
Okay. Now, of that list, I have 6. I want to get 3 more from you. Could you give us 3 more movies that you're going to be on that list?
Oh, well, it will be, well, I'm trying to orchestrate them in sort of a time sequence or subject sequence, which was kind of difficult to do. But I put at the top of that list the documentary that I just named,
Yes.
The History of Racism,
Okay, got
on the
that.
BBC. And the next one is a series I know exists for sure. Of course, the other one I know exists too because I saw it. But it would be I, Claudius.
Okay, have
that's
that.
what I would start with because
okay.
that's the history, a capsule history, 13-part series of the Roman Empire.
Okay.
And it's done in a very, very entertaining manner, in my opinion.
Okay.
Now, it may bore some people, but I don't think so, because most Roman history movies that I have seen, almost all of them, I didn't like any of them. I don't even like to look at any of them. I mean, anything about Roman history is presented on the screen. I've never seen not one. There was one called Cleopatra, I think. I mean, you know, it wasn't about Roman history.
Okay.
But that would include that era and all like that, with Liz Taylor in it. And then there one with Charlton Heston in it, I think, an actor. I didn't like that one either.
Okay.
I mean, any of those. But I recommend I, Claudius.
Got it.
All right? And that's a 13-part series. And that you know, it would, if you can see the whole series, that would be a great introduction to the format for what later became the Godfather format, because it's all based on how the Romans went about doing things,
Okay.
including the movies like The Godfather. And it also will incorporate the basis for the system of white supremacy.
All right.
What happened in the Roman Empire is exactly the way that the system of white supremacy was set up and formatted when they started encountering dark-skinned people.
Okay.
They started doing the same things that they were doing out of that royalist, imperialistic system.
All righty. But for the sake of time, could you just give us 3 more, and then we can, to keep.
Well,
it
I would say the next one would be Gone with the Wind.
Got that. Okay.
All right. And then a movie, what you call a Western, that they show every now and then on television, called Shane,
Okay. Got that.
with Alan Ladd.
Okay.
Another one that's a Western, because I'm doing this in sort of time sequence,
Okay.
Hombre. There's a lot of lessons in that movie called Hombre with Paul Newman.
Okay. And the next one?
The next one is another cowboy movie, you might say, High Noon.
Okay. High Noon.
It
Okay.
shows every now and then.
All right. We're going to stop there for that, and we'll pick up 3 next show. That's 9 so far that I have. Moving on down there. Okay. Before I go to break, let's take this call. Go ahead, caller. You're on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.
You got me, brother?
Hey, bro.
Yeah, much praise and love to you and Mr. Fuller and all the decent human beings on the planet.
Okay.
Mr. Einstein said in the final analysis, force and violence rules. I haven't seen Mr. Einstein to be wrong on that analysis to this very day. Now, I agree with Mr. Fuller. Now, the Vikings, when they was taken from people, they didn't care what color you were. Matter of fact, when the Vikings started going taken from people, the people who looked like them. The Vikings came to your village, they killed the men, they took the women, they took the children with them, and they took your animals. They didn't care what color you were. So what we're seeing today is, greed. People get greedy, and they're using race to justify their greed. That's what the white man is doing. Now, think about humanity, people. Here the white man is. He got all this power in the world. Look how long he's been in power. He got all this technology, all these resources. He go to space. He go to the moon. He just sent a probe to the sun. He got space station. You mean to tell me, out of all these things they got in that they hand, all they have come up with is to slaughter people, to exterminate them? Elijah Muhammad said long ago, we are dealing with the devil. Did Elijah Muhammad lie? Is this the devil we dealing with? All these people have came up with is to slaughter people. Now they have plans to exterminate black people, brought us here, worked us over 400 years, refused to repair us, and they said, no, we're going to exterminate you. People, what kind of people are these people that we are dealing with? Now I'm going to leave you with this. The realist. The realist is the person having weighed all the visible factors in a given situation and having found that the odds are against him, he decides that fighting is useless, but escape might be possible or an option. That's where we are. We're not going to defeat these psychopaths in their den. These people are killing us in Chicago like it ain't no tomorrow. And they doing it in other parts of the country. And they're doing it under the cover of law. And the people running the world have gave them the okay to do it. Now, if you think you can fight them, good. But if you think you rather get out of here with some grandchild, some young son, if you think you can escape, get out of here, because they're going to slaughter millions of black people.
All right,
Thank
my
you,
brother. All right, thank you. All righty. TalkTameAtRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. You can get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766. But at this particular time, this is the time that we have set aside for Mr. Fuller to discuss briefly his book. Mr. Fuller?
Yes, the name of this program here on TalkTameAtRadio.com is the compensatory concept. So the long title for that is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Now what that basically means, and that's the basic title of the book, there are equal titles. I call them supplementary titles, but all they are equal. Compensatory Counter-Racist Code, and a more explicit title, all on the cover of the same book, is a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. And you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. It's a compensatory counter-racist code. And this program is called the compensatory concept. Compensatory meaning what? It's just an idea. The concept is an idea, and compensatory means making up for what's missing. Now, what is the thing that is missing among the people of this planet more than anything when they interact with each other? It's a thing that somebody a long time ago named justice. More than anything, that's what's missing among people. Now, it takes a lot of ingredients to produce that thing called justice, but that should be one of the main things that people should try to produce among the people of the planet. People do not get along, you might say. Why? Because you don't have justice. Non-justice is imbalance between people. People are out of balance with each other. So you're trying to achieve that. Since you don't have it, you compensate for not having it by trying to figure out a way to get it. So what is justice? Well, the compensatory definition, first of all, you get your words correct. The compensatory definition is called justice. And with this definition, the one that I gave it, because I didn't like the ones that I already had. That's why I called it a compensatory definition. It's for one to make up for the meaning that you don't have, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated, and guaranteeing that the person who needs help the most gets the most constructive help. So you can get the basic book by going to producejustice.com, and you will also see on the screen a word guide that tells you what different words, how they should be used, how they should not be used, words to avoid using, words to ask questions about when other people use them. Because in order to have justice, you first have to get rid of the system of white supremacy. You cannot have white supremacy nowhere on this planet, and you have it everywhere on this planet. You cannot get justice with the system of white supremacy. It's not going to happen. You have to actually get rid of the system of white supremacy. Now you have an opportunity to produce a thing called justice, because the system of white supremacy does not produce justice.
Mm-hmm.
Go to producejustice.com, and you can get the textbook that will show you what to do, or some suggestions for the individual person to do and not do in regards to the system of racism in order to produce justice.
Okay.
Go to producejustice.com.
All righty. Let's do here. Okay, this is a Gmail. It says, Mr. Fuller, just last week after it was announced that the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, had passed, there were two grown, rusty, hard-kneed black males in Virginia who, after leaving a barbershop, began arguing with each other over which actress should, in a supposed, portray the Queen of Soul in a movie. The argument got so heated that one of the men pulled out a gun and shot the other man. Both wound up in the hospital with injuries. And so I see this as a prime example of what you mean when you say that black folk in the Northwestern Hemisphere need to stay away from each other as much as possible, because what may start off as a casual event usually can wind up in some kind of argument or worse. I also think it's a prime example of when you say that we got a lot of black men that are still boys, even some gray-haired grandfathers. Mr. Fuller, I'm going to read it just as it is. Got any further thoughts on this, Mr. Fuller?
Yes, sir. I cover all this in the textbook for victims of white supremacy. One of the most important things that black people should do all over the world, starting with this minute, don't contact anybody unless you have something constructive to say or do. Make sure that whatever it is you're going to say on that cell phone is going to have a constructive effect. Otherwise, don't say it. And one thing, according to the code that I said that we should have, we don't argue about nothing. No black person should ever have an argument with anybody about anything. We have arguments all the time, barbershop arguments. I mean, what you might call jive time arguments. I mean, we are argumentative people. We need to stop having arguments altogether. How do you avoid an argument? Make everything that you say constructive. And if you say anything to offend another black person, apologize, but never ask for an apology. All right? If a black person say, hey, I don't like what you said, all right, then you say, well, I apologize for what I said, and I'll talk to you some other time, because it looks like we're fixing to have an argument, and that's a no-no. That is a no-no. Black people we should go on record as being the most least argumentative people that ever existed. Black people don't have arguments. They have conversations. All right?
All righty.
Conversations just mean you talk, and everything that you say is constructive. Once it looks like it's turning into something where people are being hostile, you have the codified response is, sir, ma'am, I will talk to you, and always be polite. I will talk to you at some other time.
All righty.
All right.
Alrighty. Let's go to the Gmails here. Root Dog mentioned that this is VGQ. It was called. He entitled it "My Recommendations." Greetings, Mr. Fuller. I just got caught up on last week's discussion entitled "The Rockhammer." Mr. Fuller suggested that we should try and learn something from everything: movies, books, discussions, etc. This reminded me of a book I read entitled "The 4 Agreements" by Don Miguel Ruiz. The book suggests 4 agreements an individual should make with themselves, which is similar to Mr. Fuller's book, which suggests each individual develop a code that works best for them. Now, the first agreement, which I'm going to read, says this, and I'm going to be brief with this. It says, the first agreement: be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Second agreement: don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality. Third agreement: do not or don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and express what you really want. And the fourth one is always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to being sick. Under any circumstance, simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Mr. Fuller, this was his VGQ. As you heard that, what is your VGQ on this?
Well, it is what it is. A person listens to what the person has just read. I haven't read that. I mean, I have my own suggestions that I put in the code book, hundreds of them. But whatever you hear from anybody that you can take and use, and it has a constructive effect, like I said, everything is divided into one of 2 categories. Every move that everybody makes, that every creature makes, including animals and flies and insects and whatnot, is going to have a constructive effect or a non-constructive effect. Just like the person that called in a few minutes ago and said about the argument about Mrs. Aretha Franklin, all right, who passed on. And an argument, how did that argument start? And look at the effect that it had. They wound up harming each other about a person who was a singer and who sang about a thing called respect, that everybody said that's one of her major songs. And now you got 2 black people arguing about it and who wound up harming each other. How did that happen? It's because that's what we set out to do, really. For the most part, we're trained that way. So if we're talking about training,
yes,
okay, we are trained by the white supremacists that any move that we make that involves another black person, we have harm in mind, all right, when we don't even realize it. That's why we need to stay away from each other. We don't have parties or none of that, because we are very toxic people. We have to admit that to ourselves. If we don't admit that to ourselves, we're not going anywhere.
Why is it hard to admit that we are toxic people?
Because nobody likes to admit that they are defective.
Okay.
I don't like to admit that I'm defective, but I am. I'm in a defective society. I am very defective. I am a very poisonous person. I have to realize that. And whenever you're poisonous and you contact anybody else, what are you doing? You are spreading that poison that's already in you. That's what you are doing, whether you think so or not. And every black person is loaded with poison in the system of white supremacy. Ain't no exceptions to that. It's just a matter of how much the poison there is. Some black people are more poisonous than others, all right? And anytime you see somebody walking around talking about MF this and MF that, you're listening to poison, all right? And you put your distance between you and that. Because why? It's not constructive, that's why.
It will kill you.
You cannot show the record where that, even when people who talk to each other like that and call each other that type of thing.
All righty. I have to
Right.
leave it there. TalkTimeAtRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Thanks for the pleasure of your time. Thanks for listening. We will see you in the second hour.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTimeRadio.com.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
All righty. Good morning. At least here in the Northwestern Hemisphere, it's still morning. Welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on what we call the world's greatest radio. And now you are in touch with the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. You'd be surprised how deep radio goes. I mean, when you're in your car, guess what? Most of the time you have your radio in. Radio is very powerful, and it is our pleasure to present the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, and we appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with you. Now, if you'd like to speak with Mr. Fuller, you can get in contact with the show by dialing 1-877-932-9766. You can also Gmail me at the numero number 7, Mr. Bobby, that is BOBBY, at gmail.com. You can also do this. You can watch and view the program by going to the YouTube channel and typing in the word Talktainment, and then hit the space bar, and then type in the word radio. Then scroll down to Talktainment number 2, and you are there live. And you can hit the subscribe button and the like button. We really appreciate that. But we would prefer you go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage and click on Listen Live. That's all you have to do. Listen live, and there you go. Also, to review the program, you can go to Facebook.com/Talktainment, and you're there also. Now, the theme of today's program is Training Day. We're going to try to make sure that we emphasize different themes so that you can distinguish the different programs. You know, this is all a learning experience. Also, I have adopted that, still learning every day, which I am. But this is what you're going to hear, different themes of programs. And the thoughts should be down there. Now, we had Training Day, and I think we're going to have a few things on the YouTube channel about the Training Day. But let me read a statement by Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She said, "We're the only people on this entire planet who have been taught to sing and praise our demeanment." Quoting, "I am a bitch. I am a hoe. I'm a gangster. I'm a thug. I'm a dog," end of quote. If you can train people to demean and degrade themselves, you can oppress them forever. You can even program them to kill themselves, and they won't even understand what happened. This was a quote from Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She quoted this, and on the last hour at the end, we had two gentlemen that got into an argument over Aretha Franklin, who would be best to portray her in a movie, and violence broke out. And both of them are in the hospital. Two black males did this. This is not good. But what happened? They were trained to do that. And Mr. Fuller addressed that. If you have any questions, call at 1-877-932-97. This is usually the time where the California people call, and that's what I usually call them. We usually receive a lot of calls. So the phone lines are open. 1-877-932-9766 is the number. Okay, let's go to the Gmails. This is from Sudi. He says this: Good morning, Mr. Fuller. My question has to do with a job situation. What would one say or do when the manager or supervisor asks you to lie to a client or on a survey, or to his or her boss to make them, their position or company look good and professional? Being a better person trying to produce justice, you tell the HR department, but no actions were taken. Nothing changed. You know, or at least suspect, if you don't do what was asked, you could face consequences or get fired or not having your contract renewed. What actions, Mr. Fuller, should one take, or what kind of questions that one should be raised, if any, to ensure maximum constructive result and avoid conflict? Thank you very much.
Well, if I was in that situation, you go through the codified procedures. When a person wants you to do something on a job, one of the first things you should think about, if you have questions about it, is just to ask the question about, why do you want me to do this? See, the person, I'll get back to those 4 things that are listed in the book. What do you want me to do? Why do you want me to do it? That's number 2. There's 4 on the economics, I think. I have it. What is it you want me to do? Why do you want me to do it? How do you plan for me to do it? And what do you expect the constructive result to be? Now, these are questions that I would ask verbally, and then put it in writing, and then have them answer in writing. That's one thing. You want, on a job, you usually want the person who is telling you to do anything, or something that they want to outline for you to do, some instructions they want you to do. Everything is about doing something. So just get them to put it in writing. What was done, by whom, and who told who to do what. See, in other words, you might know that what they're telling you to do is incorrect, but in the system of white supremacy, the white supremacists are always getting a black person to do something that's incorrect. Mm-hmm. Okay? So what you do is just say, well, sir, so that I get it straight, and so that anybody who asks me about it know exactly what happened and why it happened, will you put that in writing, what you're telling me?
What if they refuse to put it in writing?
Well, you ask them a question. See, all problems are solved by questions.
Yes.
Well, why is it that you don't want to do this?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
See what I mean? You just keep asking questions. Why is it that you don't want to put what you're telling me to do that you say should be done in writing? And then ask them a question. Are we all supposed to be doing the correct thing here at this facility? Is everybody here on board with doing the correct thing by everybody? Is this what this company is supposed to be known for? And write up what the company is supposed to be known for. Put that down in writing, sir, if you don't mind, so that everybody has an understanding. When I go out and talk about this company, I mean, I'd be able to show them what you wrote, because you're running the company. I mean, and this is what the company stands for. And that whatever you wrote, you stick by, you stand by what? Your work. See, everybody on the planet should stand by his or her work. I'm a mafia don and I put a contract on somebody, hey, stand by your work, sir. This is your work.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you said should be done.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So, don't say that, don't let somebody take credit for your work. All right? This is your work.
Yes. I can see the relevance of that statement that you make all the time when it's said that all problems can be solved through questions.
Questions and answers. There's no exceptions to that. Go into the question mode and get your answers in writing.
Yeah.
And if they say, well, why do you want it in writing? Say, because I forget, sir, and I don't want to misquote anybody.
Yes, yes.
All right? I don't want to make a mistake about what you said. That would be a terrible thing for me to say that you said something that you didn't say. That would not be a reflection of you and what you really are. I know that when I write something about you, sir, or ma'am, that you want it to be accurate. So what better person to write about what you say than you?
Right.
All right? Rather than me try to remember it secondhand and give it to somebody else. This causes what?
Confusion, yes.
And confusion causes destruction. All right? It's non-constructive. Mm-hmm. That's what confusion does. You have a non-constructive situation anytime you have confusion. And codification is about getting rid of confusion. Period.
I love that. That's oh man, that was good. Okay, 1-877-932-9766. Let's go to another Gmail. This comes from the dog, Root Dog. He says this, Mr. Fuller, why is it when a white woman is, quote, pimping, end of quote, people, she is called a madam? Yet, when a black man / woman does the same thing, he or she is called a pimp. The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept, the compensatory code, is a term that means, when expressed in practice, the sum total of everything that is thought, said, or done by one individual non-white person who is a victim of racism, victim of white supremacy, that is effective in helping to eliminate racism, white supremacy, and or in helping to, quote, make up, end of quote, for the lack of justice and correctness in any one of the any one or more areas of people activity, including economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and or war, counter-war. What say you, Mr. Fuller, to this?
But the question was, when a white woman says something?
Yes, that's what he says.
He says when a white woman, I didn't quite get that part.
Okay.
When a white woman says something.
Yeah, it's called madam. He was speaking in reference to pimping. But when a black man...
In reference to what?
In reference to pimping, selling somebody.
Pimping.
Yeah, pimping.
All right, when a white woman
is pimping people, she is called a madam. Yet when a black man / woman does it, it's called a pimp. And he wanted to know, why is that?
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask the people who use these terms why they use these terms and how they use them. I've never been in that situation where I saw that happening. All right, but if I had that question, those are the people to ask. The people who use terms should explain what the terms mean to the nth degree, so that you get rid of what? Confusion. So you want to know why in every situation. Why is this? Why is that? You always want to know why. And, why did you say what you said? And the thing that you said, what does this particular word mean when you say it? Not when the other person says it. What does it mean when you say it? All right? That's the codified procedure. All you have to do is just keep asking questions.
Yes.
See, so I couldn't answer that question.
Okay.
When I didn't use those terms.
Okay.
So the people who use those terms in that particular setting should explain why they chose to use a different term for one person than they did for another.
Yes, that's what he was.
Person who did it. That's who you ask. I have found that works magic.
Okay.
Like I always say, questions and answers do work magic.
All
they
right.
really do.
Okay, now, in reference to the movie that we were talking about that has really sparked interest from a lot of people, and you corrected by saying the BBC documentary is the history of racism. A brother from what is so-called, he calls it so-called French Guiana, wrote in and said this, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby, that movie or that documentary can be found on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube.
Can be found on YouTube.
That's what he, yeah.
That is excellent information because I didn't know where it could be found.
Yeah.
Somebody just came up to me and said, I want to show you something. So I walked over to what they wanted to show me, and they had it on the screen, and
yes.
I looked at it, and
Now,
it said BBC TV, and the history, I thought, I was trying to remember the exact title, and I remembered it as the history of white supremacy, but actually it was the history of racism.
yes.
And if you look at the screen, I want to know, is that actually what I think it is now? So I won't be making a second mistake.
That's right.
All right.
Well, he just wrote in from French Guiana, and he wrote, now I haven't reviewed it, he just wrote in and said that's where it can be found on YouTube, the history of racism on YouTube. So
History of Racism, BBC TV.
it's on YouTube.
And it can be found on YouTube.
That's what he just wrote in.
All right. Well, I don't know whether that's true or false, but if anybody does it, well, that's the information I've received.
Okay. Let's do this. TalkTimeAtRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I'm going to share with you, and it's called New Money. New Money. Brother and sister will explain what new money is and why you should be interested in that. Sister Janae, they do an excellent job in bringing that in there. Brother Drew, he will have his points, and Janae will have her points, and it is an excellent program. This show is exclusive to TalkTeamAtRadio.com, and all you have to do is go to the TalkTeamAtRadio.com homepage, click on programs, go right on down there until you find it, along with the other programs that are on there that are offered, and listen to it, view it, and get some information on it as you are still learning. That's from Talk Team at Radio. That's radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby, and on the line with me is Mr. Neely Fuller, and our main focus has been I call the training day, where in the system of racism, which is white supremacy, we are trained to do a lot of the things that we do. Some of us are unaware of the training that goes on, but the 9 areas of people activity that Mr. Fuller always suggests are in play at all times, and they work in concert with each other. So there's no one particular area that's more dominant than the other. It is all going, but we're being trained to do what they do because what they have taught us to do, because this is a revenue stream, and Mr. Fuller has gone on in suggesting that. 1-877-932-9766. This comes from Chris. Says this, good morning, Mr. Fuller. I'm still learning. I have a question regarding the area activity labeled labor. As a black person, how should I handle workplace blame in a codified manner when my supervisor always tries to blame me for something that is not my fault? The supervisor is a person of color, but always wants to impress the white manager by being aggressive toward the workers. Thank you. Chris from New York.
Well, you go back to the wants again. That's on the economics, time and energy. What do you want me to do, sir? If it's a male supervisor, a black male, what do you want me to do? Why do you want me to do it? How do you plan for me to do it? what do you expect the constructive result to be? These are questions, 4 questions that every person on the planet should be asking every time they make a move any kind of way. You ask these questions of yourself. You know, what do I want to do? Why do I want to do it? How do I plan to do it? What do I expect the constructive, underlying constructive result to be? And you can just simply, if that person is argumentative or wants to place blame on you for something like that, you just simply say, well, what do you want me to do? Why do you want me to do it, sir? Always be polite. Always be polite. Don't let anybody, anywhere, at any time, be more courteous than you.
Mm-hmm.
That's code.
And get that in writing, huh?
Yeah, put that in, nail that down in your mind right now.
Okay.
Never, under any circumstance, I don't care what other people are doing, make sure that you are the most courteous person in a group of 200 or 300 people. You don't let anybody be more courteous than you.
Okay.
So everything is ma'am, sir, always, even when they're hostile, whether they're white or non-white, always ma'am, sir, you know. But get to these questions. What is it, particularly if it's a hostile situation, somebody placing blame on you, like you say, and whatnot? Okay, well, let's start from scratch. What do you want me to do, sir or ma'am? Why do you want me to do it this particular way? All right? How do you plan for me to do it? Because if they're your supervisor, they're supposed to have the plan, not you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that's going to take care of a whole lot of that blame thing, just that third question alone. Okay? Because you get that down pat. How do you plan for me to do what it is that you want me to do? Okay? That's what you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
All right? But you be courteous when you do it. Maximum courtesy. How do you plan for me to do it? And just don't, it's a difference between telling you to do something and then walking off. A lot of blame happens like that. That
Yes.
third question.
Yes, sir.
See, I always say it's the 3 T's in labor. Telling, training, and testing. What white supremacists do and what a lot of black people do when they're addressing other black people, that they have been taught by the white supremacists to leave out that second T. Second T is what? Training. Telling, training, testing. That's what should happen on every job. See, telling you to do something is not training you to do it. I was in a military situation once called the Army, all right, and they said, Fuller, we want you to be trained in how to use this rifle. Now, he didn't tell me, he was telling me what they were going to train me to do. But they made sure, before I even put a bullet in that rifle, that I was trained in even how to pick up the rifle and how to aim it and how to pull the trigger before I even put a bullet in it. And I kept doing that over and over and over again. They call it, you training, you aim at the target. And we did that for days, not just for a few minutes. We did that for days. We would come out on the firing range for days and aim at a paper target 100 yards away or 50 yards away and pull the trigger and just get a click. No bullet in the gun at all. No bullet in the rifle. We call them rifles, never called the gun. That's the way it was when I was in the military, okay? For some strange reason, names, okay? But that was training. And then finally they said, okay, you know how to pick up the weapon. You know how to aim it. You know how to pull the trigger. You know how to do this. You can do it in your sleep. You know where all the parts are in the rifle and whatnot. Now we will put a bullet in the rifle, and today you're going to fire the rifle for the first having the training in how to pick up the rifle and how not to pick it up and which way to point that rifle when you pick it up. You never have that rifle pointed at anybody. Never point a rifle at anything that you do not intend to kill. And they will train you to do that before they let you put a cartridge in that rifle. They will train you. You would do it instinctively. You did it so many times over and over again. Now, this is very important because it's supposed to be the same way on any job that you're put on.
Yes, sir.
That when you finally are turned loose on that machinery that you're going to be using, that supervisor, if he's what you call a superior advisor, giving you superior advice, that's what the word supervisor means. You get superior advice. Superior advice means I don't have to tell you nothing. You're not going to make any mistakes because I train you. Because if you make a mistake, that's a reflection on me as a supervisor. It means I made a mistake in something that I told you. See, but a lot of people who have the title of supervisors don't give superior advice. They're really not supervisors.
Okay.
They just come up and tell you what to do and walk off and then come back and want to test you and see if you did it.
Uh-huh.
They leave out that second T. This is very important.
Very important. Okay. All righty. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so my name is Lance. Again, calling from Bakersfield, California. Hopefully you can hear me better now. Just to go back on what I was saying earlier, just to basically set up the premise, because I was receiving an answer from you, Barbara Fuller. Again, I'm a targeted individual in America who is being subjected to forced generation by other Americans. Also hashtag Truth Rising is on on Twitter. Truth Rising 911 on BitChute. Those are some of my social networking sites where I actually have evidence, like audio or video footage of some of these things happening, so I can actually prove that this is happening. So you were saying that some of the best things that I can do is codify everything that I do, or everything that they do, which I agree with, and I have done. And you were about to say something else.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes, I was about to say something else.
You were saying, you said to codify everything that I do, and that's when the call ended. Now I'm not going to say, I didn't hang up, and I know you didn't hang up, but I'm not going to just say that someone perhaps that they did that, but I'm also being a part of that warfare. There's also electronic warfare and cyber and things like computer hacking and all that stuff too.
Well, I don't remember. I just vaguely remember that conversation that I had, that response. So I don't know exactly what I was going to say at this particular time. But basically, I think that what I would have said, I just have to guess now, is that just codify the main thing. Codify everything that you do. Now, what do I mean by codify? Have a way of going about saying and doing everything, and this will be by trial and error, that works for the most constructive results. And once you find out that it works, don't turn loose to it. Do it the same way every time. Talk to people the same way every time. Say the same exact words over and over and over and over again. Never say anything different. That's what codification means. You say everything the same way to everybody all the time. All right?
I agree. Like things such as, like I tell people and on my blogs, like on Truth Rising 911, I usually say I'm starting to make it more of a religion to say that I love who I am and who I'm becoming, because I do, and I would never do anything to intentionally hurt myself, because I wouldn't. I am for self-defense, and I say things of that nature just to let people know, because the objective, according to the research that I've done, the objective of what these people, or lack of to be as nice as possible, their objectives appear to be, to get a person to make or coerce a person into committing homicide, suicide, getting put in prison for some crime, or coercing them into committing some type of public violent act of violence that can then be used for political purposes. So it's a reality. Some terms are called gang stalking, organized harassment, community stalking. But one word that not many people have been using is community terrorism or communitarianism. Communitarianism is a term that hasn't been used that often, but it's actually appropriate and connected to words like authoritarianism or totalitarianism. Or communitarianism actually is on what's happening because they actually get people in communities across the nation involved in watching me, surveilling me, and reporting me, and they also use people to conduct different types of war games or illegal experiments on me to try to coerce me into doing those different things.
Okay, caller, excuse me, but we are up against the break. Anyway, that's been our top focus today, training. Going to a brother in South Africa, Brother Sloan, he wrote this. Now, before I write this, I want to say that what he is referencing is a video that has gone viral. And I'm going to read it just as he wrote it, and then we can have Mr. Fuller discuss this. He says, a prime example of an agent of the system of Anglo-racist white supremacy operating on the mother continent, where the white image of Jesus, their Christ and Savior, is dominant. Remember, Uganda is one of the African nations where the white cracker Christians have influenced the governing elites to follow repressive Christianity. An American missionary arrested in Uganda after a racist assault on a hotel employee. Now, he had the video, which we can't see, but I saw it, Mr. Fuller, and what it was, a white man was in this hotel. I guess he asked for his keys to his room. I don't know what the circumstances that had preceded that, but the employees, which were all black, did not give him the keys to his room. And he went off on this rant, which he demeaned them. He called them the N-word. He called them MFs. He told them that they had to do what he said because he was basically superior to them, and they had, H-A-A-D, had to follow him. Now, what was impressive about it is that the employees practiced the 3 Fs. They didn't fight. They did not fuss back. They did not flee. One of them was struck by this man in the face. And he kept on calling things, and he said that he was doing this in the name of Jesus and all this stuff. Now, the next day, of course, he was arrested for this, but these people did follow that. So Brother Sloan, like I said, it had gone viral, so he went down in Africa, and all the world saw how this man who claimed to be a Christian or a disciple of Jesus Christ used all this language and all this actions that were totally against what supposedly Jesus Christ was all about. Now, I'm assuming that you did not see this, but based on what I have just said, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I do believe in, see, I was talking about don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee if a law enforcement officer approaches you.
Okay.
But now, just a person coming into a hotel lobby, and I'm the desk clerk, and that person, if the person is just shouting at me and calling me names and cursing and all like that, I don't fuss, I don't fight, and I don't flee. But if the person hits me, that's a different thing altogether. Now, I can do 2 things then. I'm left with 2 other options. I can fight, or I can flee. Now, those are the 2 things I don't do because my job is to stay there and behind that counter. That's my job. I don't leave and leave all the keys behind and all like that unless I just have to, unless I've been told that if anybody accosts you, get out from behind that counter and get out of the hotel. Just turn the hotel over to them. Now, if I've been told that, that's what you do. If that's what the person that runs the hotel or whomever put me behind the desk to be there, whatever that person told me to do, that's what I do. But if the person hits me, I defend myself. You know? Now, if that means fleeing, backing off the person and whatnot so I don't get hit again, and then, you know, I'm going to make charges about that against the person that did the hitting, okay? And then there will be some other ramifications because that's got to be compensated for. I need repair work done for that. All kinds of repair work. You have no business hitting me when I am just trying to get 2 checks into a hotel, all right? So that's a different frame of reference, but that's according to the code the way I see it. But for what the people did, the code that they followed, if that worked best for them, then that's the procedure. See, the whole idea of codification, counter-racist codification, or any kind of codification, is to always, in every circumstance, handle everything the very best. Nobody could ever do it better. That's the goal. You may not achieve it, but that's the simplest and most direct and I hope most non-confusing way to remember what codification is all about. Always handle every situation so that the result of what you did was better, or you might say the very best that could ever be done by anybody, anytime, under that same situation.
Okay.
Nobody could ever do it better than what you just did.
All right.
That should be your goal. That should what you have. The minute that the person open their mouth, if they're half drunk or whatever it is, I mean, you know, you start saying, okay, now, this looks like it's not going to end very well. So what is it that I am going to do that it cannot be better than what anybody would do under the same circumstance? That's what you mean, having that codified mind.
Yes, sir.
What is the best move that I can make?
Okay. Before we go to the question on your, or statements on your book, speaking of codification, Jordan says this, Mr. Fuller. He says, Mr. Fuller, what's the codified response to a white person if they say, as a white person, they are a victim of racism?
You say, when? By whom? How? Explain what you're saying.
Still in the question mode.
Yes, stay in the question mode. You said might have about 3 or 4 dozen questions. You know, when were you a victim of racism? How? You know, under what circumstance? In what area of activity? I mean, who did what to you? And you couldn't do anything about it. I want to hear this. You're a white man, you're a victim of racism. I want to hear all about that. Let's nail this down. All right? You know, this needs to be explored and you know, to the nth degree. Just don't say you're a victim of racism and walk away. I got some questions here, if you don't mind, sir. Out of all courtesy, you just made a very serious statement that you are a victim of racism. When? Where? How? By whom? Under what circumstance? In what area of activity? You know, how many times? And, you know, you were victimized and you couldn't do nothing about it? I got that question. That's a question. You didn't know what to do about it? You know? Didn't any help come to you as a result of you being a victim of anything that a black person did? Okay? If that's what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're talking about? If some black person harmed you and you didn't have any idea what to do about it? That's the question, yes or no?
All righty.
I want to hear the details on this.
Okay, you're still in the question mode.
Yes, stay in the question mode, and have another question ready if the answers that you get are inadequate.
Okay.
Well, see, that's how you get to the truth. You might have to ask and answer at least 7 dozen questions about that one thing that he said. I'm a victim of racism.
Okay. Gigi, and I am putting that name on because the other name is a little difficult for me to pronounce. But anyway, I'm assuming that Gigi may not be from this country, but he says this: apologies, my English is not my home language. So to correct the question in a previous email directed at your statement that, Mr. Fuller, that the victims of white supremacy, racism, need a codified way to respond to it in order to break it. Question: do the white supremacists, racists, know that also, or is that not known to you whether they do? Do they know that a codified response to their system, i.o. response that serves the purpose of breaking their system, is the missing link that can make our struggle effective against their prison system?
Sure, they know that, but also they know that black people are not codified, which is why black people are in the shape that we're in. White supremacy is codified. The white supremacists have a white code.
Okay.
The most powerful code that has ever existed among the people of the planet. There's no political code. There's no religious code that is proven to be more powerful. But on the basis of evidence, if you check all the evidence, that is proven to be more powerful than the system of white supremacy. It's a codified system. The only way you can have a system is it got to be codified. That's what makes a system a system.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's an electrical system, a plumbing system, you turn on your water and you get, on a faucet, and water comes out of the faucet.
Yes, sir.
When you turn the handle. That's a system. That's a codified system. Otherwise, that water would not come out of that faucet. All right? It's the same way with the system of white supremacy. What is a system? A codified system. Something that every time you do it, it works.
It works, yes.
Every time you do it, it works. That's when you know it's codified.
All right.
Black people don't have anything like that. And the white supremacists have the best one and the most powerful one ever thought up in the minds of people. It's superior to any religion that was ever thought up.
Wow.
And it's superior to any political system ever thought up. There's nothing more powerful than the system of white supremacy among the people of the planet Earth.
All right. Let's go to the call before we have Mr. Fuller talk about his book. Caller, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, hi. It's my pleasure to talk to you, Mr. Fuller. I'd like to know, do you have a daily prayer that you say to help overcome white supremacy?
Well, I don't know if it helps to overcome white supremacy. It helps me to keep in touch with what I say created me. And don't forget that. I didn't create myself. I just found myself here. I don't remember when I was born. All right? A lot of people say, well, hey, black people are self-created. Well, I don't know when I did that. Well, maybe some black person, the first black person created me. I don't know. Apparently, that could be true. But I do know that I'm here. But I don't remember being here. I don't remember my first breath that I took. So in answer to the question, I do have what I call a compensatory prayer. It just makes up for the prayers that I don't have. I mean, whatever they're supposed to be. It doesn't have words to the prayer. I don't say words to my prayer. It's a suggestion that's in the code book. It's in the code book. Most of the things that I'm saying on this air, on this program, are in the code book. Okay? So what I do, I hold my breath and count to maybe 5 or 10 or 15, as long as I can hold it, and then I release my breath. And that's it. And then I think about what I just did. did that just the first thing I did when I got up in the morning, because I did it this morning. I held my breath as long as I could, and then I released it. And then I said, Fuller, do you understand what you just did and how you were able to do that? And the answer is no. I know nothing about that. I don't know how I was able to do that. I don't know what put me in position to do that, to hold my breath, and then when it felt uncomfortable, to release it, and then continue to inhale and exhale. All right? I call it the compensatory prayer, universal prayer. Why? Why do I call it the universal prayer? Because everything in every creature, animal, insect, whatnot, including whales up on the ocean, they do what? They breathe. But I don't know how that happens. The whole time I was asleep, just before I woke up, and was able to control my breath. I wasn't able to control my breath while I was asleep. See, I thought about that when I, decided that that was going to be my prayer every day, which I do every day. I do that every morning. To do what? To remind myself that there's something greater than me. Now, you can call it by any name you want to. All power, Jehovah, the Creator, Allah, the Great Spirit. But I'm saying I didn't do it because while I'm breathing, while I'm asleep, I got no idea of what I'm doing. Why? Because I'm asleep, but I'm still breathing. And if I stop breathing in my sleep, I ain't waking up. That's what people tell me. If you stop breathing and you don't inhale no more while you're asleep, and hours go by and you didn't do no inhaling, you just exhale and didn't inhale anymore, somebody's going to find you being what? Dead. D-E-A-D. Because if when you stop breathing, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
All righty. All right. Thank you, my brother, for that call so much. Thank you. Mr. Fuller, your book. We have a few moments here to speak about your book.
It's called The Compensatory Counter-Racist Code. There's a longer title, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, but that's explained in the book. But it's a counter-racist code tailored to the individual person who is a victim, and it gives suggestions about what to do and what not to do, and it explains why as best I possibly could. I'm not the best writer in the world, but I tried to put it all together in a volume, in fact 2 volumes and whatnot. And you can, what I'm talking about on this program all the time, it comes right out of what I've written. You can get volumes, the basic volume and or the word guide by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the basic textbook and the supplemental and additional word guide. And it covers a lot of the things that we have talked about on this program and that I talk about on every program, TalkTaylorRadio.com, every week. And it comes right, I try to get it, squeeze it all in the book, because I do have a compensatory codified slogan, and that is one problem, one book.
No.
The race problem is one problem. I tried to squeeze everything that I possibly could that I have to say about the race problem and what it is and what an individual person can do about it in this basic book.
Okay.
And go to producejustice.com.
All right. All right. Last question here. This is from Brother Rahab. It says this. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. Listening back to your previous broadcast, you said that before engaging in sexual intercourse or sexual play, both parties should ask a series of questions, 100 or more questions, in order to minimize conflict with each other and help prevent the "I don't know" response. I'm aware that people aren't always honest in relationships and don't tell the truth when asked said questions. What should be done in a situation where the person isn't being honest with their answers to the questions and you find out that the person wasn't telling the truth after sexual intercourse? Thank you.
The whole question and answer thing is then wiped out. That's a wipeout. That's why nobody should agree to ask and answer these questions, because you don't have to ask and ask them. You can say, hey, we're going to ask each other 75 questions, all right? And so you choose the questions that you're going to ask, the two of you, and agree on you. And also you can choose the questions you're not going to ask and answer. It's all democratic. It's democratic. So nobody has an incentive to tell a lie, except they don't have the correct intentions about the other person. And the minute you tell a lie, because you don't have to lie, you can just say, well, I'd rather not talk about that. So you don't talk about it to me, and I'm not going to talk about it to you. I'm not going to tell you how many times, how many people I've had sexual intercourse. That might be one of the questions. How many people have you had sexual intercourse with up to them in your life? That might be one of the questions. Both persons should agree that they're going to answer that question. Now, if both people, if one of them might say, well, I'll tell you, but you don't have to tell me, because I don't want to know. Okay? But that's your agreement. See, these questions are totally democratic. The questions and answers. What do I mean by democratic? I mean you both agree. You both have to agree on everything. Not some things, on everything. Everything that you're going to ask and everything that you're going to answer. And that eliminates what? The one thing you don't ever want to happen in a relationship. And that is, after the relationship starts, somewhere along the line, you will say with regret, I didn't know. Those three words, it should never happen. Or, you might kind of paraphrase it, I should have known. Or, I wish I had known. But it comes down to those three things, those three words. I didn't know. I didn't know you were like that. I didn't know you were on parole. I didn't know you were homosexual. I didn't know that you were on the down. I didn't know you didn't have a job. I didn't know that you were wanted for murder. I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know that you slept with that person and this person and the other person and whatnot. You didn't never tell me that. And those are all my friends.
Yeah.
I didn't know. See what I mean? Those three words should never come out of your mouth. That's what all these questions are in advance before you ever get to the bedroom.
Okay.
All these questions should be asked and answered and agreed upon by both of you.
All
and
right.
if one person lies, you got to start all over again or don't start at all.
All right, you got to leave it there. Thanks, Fuller. Thank you, my listeners. Thank you for the pleasure of your time. This is TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.